Welcome to the Kawartha Small Business Podcast, where we believe the Kawarthas can be the most thriving region in Canada for small business. I am Brian Rump from Profit Coach.
And I'm Matt
All
Garrity of
right,
Matty G
awesome. Couple
Digital.
sponsors today. Starting Point Digital Marketing. To really thrive, your business needs digital marketing. With Starting Point Digital Marketing, you get intentionally simple marketing that works so that you can get started with your digital marketing. And with Profit Coach, most small business owners work too hard for lackluster results. Profit Coach uses essential marketing strategies and financial systems proven to get financial results you deserve. Alrighty, Matt, today we are talking about celebrating wins. Are you excited to celebrate the good times?
Worst joke ever. I like celebrating wins. I don't know who doesn't like celebrating wins.
Yeah, I think it's funny because a lot of people struggle with doing this. Some people are like, "What? Like, I celebrate all the time. Life is awesome. All I do is win, and I celebrate those wins." Then you have, I think, people in businesses who are always pushing for the next goal, the next thing, and you don't take that time to
Ooh.
acknowledge the win that you just had. I think there's also a category of people who don't even realize a milestone or something is a win because it maybe wasn't what they thought it would be, or they're just not good at acknowledging those celebrations. And depending on your personality, you could fit in any of those or more type buckets.
Good point. We probably have wins that require a celebration of sorts every day. You would hope, actually, as a business owner, you should have
Yeah,
a
and I
win every
think
single
that's
day.
an important mindset to get into. A lot of businesses forget about wins. I know I worked in the bank and I always joked, some businesses are, "What have you done for me lately?" Where the bank was, "What are you doing for me next week?" Like they really focused on like how many appointments are booked in your calendar next week. Like, didn't matter if you just closed a $10 million deal or did a whole bunch of, you know, stuff. They kind of didn't care. It was about what you were doing next week for them. So it really wears you down when you're never really celebrated, or you don't take time to like acknowledge those compliments.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm trying to think of wins that I've had today now, even, and why are they wins? Like I had lunch with Brendan Neskowski. I feel like I said that wrong, so I'm apologizing. He might listen to this. I don't know. We were just chatting about some business stuff in general and things that I'm doing, things that he's doing. It was a great win. I'm trying to do that more, intentional with coffees or get-togethers where honestly, as business owners, we are busy. Everyone's busy. It's almost a tagline. It's almost trendy to say you're busy, but we forget about these little, they're not even networking opportunities. These just little relationships of talking to other business owners and to like
Oh
spark an
yeah,
idea. And I've never really sat down with him before. We've worked together briefly about a year ago on a project and mildly stayed in touch, like followed him a little bit. And it just so happened that like reconnected recently. I think he suggests we get together. I don't know if it was one of those passive things also, or it's like we should get together. And I actually was like, yes, I would really like this. And I don't
yeah.
know if that rattled him or not, but it was great. It was interesting to talk to him, and like the conversation really got going. He helped me talking about Thrive, the co-working community. I think maybe I helped him with some ideas of his and where he's going with certain things. It was just really interesting, and it made me think I've been wanting to do that more lately, and I need to do it more. It didn't
Yeah,
take a lot of time. And honestly, like
Yeah,
strategically, it's
such
just
a
a
good
good idea.
idea. I think that's what's going to be awesome with, Thrive and having a space to do that. I know for me, I love having coffee with people, but with COVID and different things, it's been hard to do that and hard to schedule that. So that's an awesome win to be able to do that. And I think that's a good example for any business of what are those wins, what are those core activities you need, and even taking a moment to acknowledge that they are wins. And you can get so focused sometimes on growth, or some businesses are always solving problems, putting out fires, that you almost get sucked into a negative headspace where like everything sucks, and you have to like pull yourself out of that and look for and acknowledge the areas where you're winning.
You really need to
Yeah.
talk to the profit coach. Sorry, not the profit coach, but you need to speak to Brian Rump, profit coach. If your job is entirely putting out fires all the time, you've got a major, major,
Oh,
major issue on
exactly.
your hands. That's terrible. Like when you said that, I know I probably didn't even intentionally say that, but like I know what you mean. Like we've spoken to people like that. That's scary. If you just lived your whole business like that, like there's stuff that's stressful. You get more stressed at sometimes than other times. There's things that always come up. I used to be really good at seeing a lot of problems as they would come up before they happened. It was like a mild superpower of mine. I'm getting slapped across the face lately with a few that I did not see coming. But like that, they're few and far between. Like one a week. I guess I don't know if that's good or bad. And they're not even fires. They're
Yeah.
not literal fires, but just little things that come up and you weren't expecting. Yeah,
No,
talk to
definitely. And
profit
that's
coach.
part of breaking the cycle. And it's also a strategy we use just to acknowledge that. I deal with a lot of challenging projects. I sort of joke sometimes that I always sort of run into fires a little bit. You're dealing with things that are hard. It's easy to be negative about it and see all the things that aren't good. So just taking that time to really acknowledge that is helpful. Um, some of my clients I coach, one in particular, we're tackling a really big, like just mountain and lots of stuff, and it's time flies by, but we really have to take the time to like acknowledge wins of every week, to see where that progress is, because there's some days where you don't feel at all like you've made any progress, but when you look back 6 months, a year,
Sure.
yeah, and you realize, oh yeah, like things are way better than they were then. And the other thing is, people sometimes aren't where they thought they would be. So you might set a 6 month goal, and when you get there, you feel like, oh, didn't meet that goal, I failed. But you've progressed so far that it's really awesome. Like, so you need to stop and acknowledge that.
Yeah, and when you said celebrating wins, my immediate thought, and I'm sure most people's immediate thought, was getting a sale. Like that's what we do in business. That's the goal. And I'm like, what are we going to talk about? Are we talking about going out for dinner every time we get a sale? In a product driven business, that's like costly dinner. Like you hopefully
Yeah.
are selling something every day. Service based, maybe not. It could be once a month that you sell something new. If it's retainer based, it might be every few months that you make a new sale, actually. So and then I started thinking about like what other actual wins there are. So you brought up a good point, like little milestones for people to pay attention to. I was started thinking immediately about I've calls set up next week with people that I work with, contractors, freelancers, people part of my teams that it, basically I'm just asking them like, what sucks and how do we make things better from your perspective? Like, what is it that you've come across in the actual day to day workings that just don't make sense? Please tell me. And it's actually like, I think it's embarrassing how much people love that, in the sense that they're shocked that I'm open to that. In some cases, I'm the one that suggests these calls. And I feel like that's what most managers, leaders will talk about. I want to get feedback from the people on my team and hire the best people, but it's shocking that you hear
Yeah.
like it never
Yeah, they
happens
don't really
ever.
want that. So I think even having those calls is a win. Having things in the open are a win. They could be
Huge
tough
one.
conversations, but that's a sort of win to acknowledge and celebrate. It's not just a sale, it could be building a new business process, could be firing a client. I've talked before about it could be not getting a proposal, like, and that could be a mindset thing of like,
Yeah.
hey, this is a win because I need, if I'm going to close one in five, you know, at the price and the scope I want, that means I need four people to say no. So you need to have that traction and volume. Um, if you're trying to do a million things at once, sometimes you need to just acknowledge the ones you did get done, because a lot of people are just overstretched, and it's easy to look at the jobs you didn't get done or the initiatives that didn't happen, but you know, really acknowledging the ones that did happen.
Yeah. What are some smaller milestones and goals that you would point out for people that they would want to be able to celebrate,
It
whether
could
it be
be
daily or
anything
weekly?
linked to if you have a behavior goal, and you might want to write this down. So it could be, a new process that you're setting up. It could be a new process that you then follow. So you might say, okay, from now on, we're only doing work with people where we have a signed proposal before we start work. So then the next time that happens and that works, then you with your team acknowledge, hey, good job, everyone. We have a clear proposal, clear scope of work, and that's a win going forward. And you almost are exaggerating it a little bit, um, in some cases, but it helps build a habit and then build the culture that that's an important thing to do.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just like general, we're making progress, we're looking at improvements, we're moving forward here. I was thinking how satisfying it is, and this is probably celebrating a win. I have Asana that I use for project management to like understand like what my tasks are, what other people's tasks are, when the due dates are. It was not a nightmare. I was about to say it was a nightmare. It was a lot of work to set up at a time. It was like not ideal, but it saved me so much time, so much stress. Everyone that I work with, especially the people I've worked with from the beginning, at first were like, this is great. And we kind of joke like we never talk anymore because it's not just constantly, when am I doing this? What's this? What's it's just I remember talking to Kristen, who I've worked with for years, and it would like every day, I swear, like it was just texting back and forth. She's like, what is this? When is this? When do I need this? Where is all it's just Asana made it simple. And now whenever I do a task and you click that button, I'm pretty sure I'll do one now like really quickly. Of course, no one can see this, but I don't want to do it actually because I don't want to lose my task. But I'm pretty sure there's like a little like explosion
Yeah,
of confetti
and that's
that goes off, or like it goes bright green, and you're like, yeah, and it's so satisfying that you've completed a task. Very similarly, I used to do, and I'm sure most people probably still do this, paper, like a list. And I still do it sometimes when like things have hit the fan to like prioritize certain things. But there's nothing more satisfying than
Oh yeah,
crossing something
and
off
that's
a
again a
list.
good win. I recently heard of somebody they were celebrating having to buy a full version of Slack because you get so many free messages, and they were like, "Oh, the team used 10,000 messages or whatever it is," and they're like, "That means people are using it and are communicating, and it's like helping the business." So like, I'm going to celebrate increasing my subscription to software based on volume because it's helping me somewhere else. So sometimes you have to look for
That's
those
a great
wins,
point.
right? Or I always joke, paying income taxes is a win, and it should be something you celebrate. And you should have the money set aside for it. And that is a win in that, hey, I planned for this, I was expecting it, and this shows that I'm making money. So here you go, right? If it's a big surprise, if you don't have the cash, that's again, come see the profit coach, and we'll help you, get into a system where you're seeing that. But that is a cause for celebration.
I was going to bring that up because, in all honesty, you've been saying that to me for a long time, and I actually understood where you're coming from. It helped me get through tax time. I had a very large, healthy tax bill, and I was hoping I would be surprised that I was wrong. It would be like half, even three quarters would have been wicked. Um, and then the day it was like, okay, here's your return. This is what we're filing. I was just like, literally thought about what you said. I'm like, this is a celebration for the amount of revenue my business generated this year. It was like a bittersweet, somber celebration. You're like celebrating New Year's Eve at home by
Yeah.
yourself type of thing. But it got me through that
Yeah, and I think
situation.
that's again one where it's a process over time. But even the mindset of this is a thing to celebrate. Like, why else be in business if you're not paying income tax? And yeah, of course, we want to do the things we can to reasonably lower it, have a tax strategy in place. But at the same time, like there's no magical tricks to eliminate it aside from fraud, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. And I don't even think it's about lowering the taxes, not to get off track here. I think it's about making sure, like, why you work with an accountant bookkeeper, like a professional one that's not going to commit tax fraud. It's about making sure you don't
yeah,
pay more than you have to pay. Because if I'm doing it on my own, I'm going to miss stuff. And it's probably just going to hurt me. I'm not going to miss something that I'm going to save myself tens of thousands of dollars, but I'm probably going to
yeah,
pay more than I have to. And that's what I don't want. And that's what I think every other
yeah.
business
So
owner
you
should be doing as
celebrate
well.
that bill, right? You celebrate one of the great
Yeah.
things as well. You sent me a text of somebody who made a purchase through your website. But those things as well, like,
Yeah.
starting point, digital marketing, great base services. I like to think in my mind that, you know, any business idea is like $500 away from launching. So like you click that buy my starting point webpage, like that's a celebration. You've taken that first step. It's not launched yet, but you celebrate then. You celebrate when review your concepts or whatever. You celebrate when it launches. Like uh, keeping track of those positive things really, really just helps your mindset, helps you get in that habit of celebrating those wins.
That was a double win. And that goes back to I had a coffee, not a coffee. I was going to say a drink, but it's not a drink, and that sounds like alcohol. I had a latte. I had a pumpkin spice latte from North Ward. It was wonderful. He paid for that, and then he bought
Yeah,
something randomly off me today. It was a double win
yeah, that's
from that
awesome, and
guy.
those are wins, right? So it's good to rack those up. I think we've talked about it before. Dan Sullivan, whose business is Strategic Coach. They have the book Who Not How, which I think we did an episode on. They have a new one coming out that is called The Gap and the Gain, and it's really about seeing wins as well. So, which is awesome. So, a lot of people look at their gaps, they look at what they didn't do, where they are versus their goals if they're short, where the people who look at their gains just look at, where have they come from, from before, what's the progress that they've made. And I know for me, naturally, I sometimes will think about the bad stuff, but I've intentionally force myself to look at the gains and acknowledge wins when I get them.
I'm trying to think like, is it too cliche to say that you learned a lot more from
Oh yeah,
the negative stuff though? Because
you
I
learn
think
a
it is
lot.
true though. Anytime something goes sideways on something that's bad or someone that cancels or whatever, it's a lot easier to like kind of think about, okay, why did that not work? Or I guess you compare it to things that are working. So it is a push and
Yeah,
a pull
yeah. So I
there.
mean,
But
there's different ways to look at that. Not everything bad is not a win. Sometimes it is a win to have an argument and fire a client, but it's a win that you stood up for your values. Sometimes it's a win because you have a good story to tell, so that you can help avoid that in the future or help someone else avoid that. I know that's for me, some of my best learning is from years of sort of being in the financial trenches and seeing a lot of things that everyone should avoid at all costs. And the only way I know those realities is experiencing it and going through it. Those are, again, wins that help you in the future. But overall, it's just as a business owner, making sure you're taking that time, celebrating those wins, make sure you're acknowledging the wins of the employees, people that you're working with. Any final thoughts?
how do you
It could be
celebrate them?
little celebrations, just acknowledging it. Like if you have team meetings, and you're like, "Hey, what are our wins from yesterday?" Say a win.
Yeah.
Other milestones could be a dinner, a coffee. I know one organization, they have like a prize wheel that they spin. So if somebody gets to spin the wheel and there's like different prizes on there, one was like, you choose the office snack for the day and they go buy like everyone like Dunkaroos or something, or like it's not, doesn't mean crazy amounts of money. It could be a, a dinner out if that's your thing. It could be a you know giant prize to somebody if it's a really really big win, but just making sure that you have that mechanism.
Yeah, something in place, like you said, small as even just doing like a daily reflection or meditation or
Yeah,
a journal. I know people roll their eyes at that, but little things like that will help you. And yeah, bigger things like dinners and just actually going out and intentionally celebrating. It doesn't need to be a massive celebration, but intentionally going out for a meal or a coffee, like you said, for this
yeah,
purpose
definitely.
specifically.
Awesome. Well, I think we've exhausted this topic, so celebrate your wins. We want to work with you. We can help you celebrate it. You can invite us to your celebration. uh, Check us out at Kawartha Small Business Podcast.ca. See how we could help you start, grow, or recharge your business. Or just send us an email at setitup@kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca.